Hello and welcome to Prairie Pulse. Coming up a little bit later in the show, we'll hear a performance from Quaisian L., a West Fargo musician. But joining me now is a longtime friend of Prairie Public and now an author, Howard Barlow. Howard, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, John.
All right. Well, as we get started, tell the folks a little bit about yourself, maybe where you're from and your background.
Okay, I grew up in a small town in South Dakota. Along the way, got into the printing business, thought I would be a printer for life. Good union job, lots of demand, and that all changed over my lifetime, and hence the title of the book, From Gutenberg to the Internet in the Flash of a Prairie Lifetime. You know, eventually we had our own printing company, and then it went totally, we decided to close because there just didn't seem to be the same kind of demand there was. And it was the modern way of doing things was changed dramatically. And the old-fashioned typesetting and so forth went away. So that was way back in the 80s, and I went into a different line of work. I was Vice President for Development at Lutheran Social Services of North Dakota and traveled all over the state having fun talking to church people in every corner of the state. Great job.
Okay. Well, you are here today to talk about your book. And you said From Gutenberg to the Internet in the Flash of a Prairie Lifetime and Other Prairie Stories. Tell us, about the book and why you wrote it and how it came about.
Well, it's interesting. I never set out to write a book, but I did start coming home at night, and if there was not anything pressing to do, I decided to sit at my computer and started writing some memoir. And I wrote stories about family and about incidents in my life and about where we'd been and what we did. And it was just a really enjoyable treat for me to tell these stories and get them on the computer. And then eventually I decided, probably should pass these on to my relatives who would be interested. And then as we looked at it, I said these should really go to people that grew up, who's my brothers and sisters' families, generations beyond, and they're scattered all over the country. And so I thought this would be a great thing to pass on to them, because they didn't know when I was 3 years old, my dad died, and there were 7 of us in the family. And my mother didn't have a whole lot of education. She didn't have a whole lot of job capability, and so she raised us 7 kids. And the older ones moved away, and they didn't experience the same things I did. I thought, well, this would be great for their kids and grandkids someday.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you said you started just doing it. Did you always write a journal, or is this something you started sort of later in life?
Later in life, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And went at it for, every evening or most evenings of the week. I would sit for a while and write, and memories kept coming back more and more. As you work with it, it happens. I don't know, somehow the brain starts getting in gear.
Okay. And then at what point did you decide, okay, I'm going to make it a book?
Well, that was my youngest daughter, who is a school teacher, and she came and said, Dad, this is good stuff, and you aren't going to send packs of paper, loose paper to these kids and stuff. Let's do a book. And she pushed me, and she's a good taskmaster. Lori was really instrumental in getting the book done.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about different things. First off, you mentioned your newspaper business, so to speak, when you were in that. Talk about your life during that era.
Well, when we were in the printing business, mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a small printing concern, and we were still doing things that, there's a picture in the book of me setting type by hand, mm-hmm. one letter at a time for headlines. And that we were still kind of in that mode when we had our own printing company. And then, we'd set the type, and we'd put stuff together, and we'd print it and send it out. But it started changing back in the 80s, and we sort of saw the handwriting on the wall, because there were the big places were very well organized, very well doing it, and the small shops were. Some of them were starting to look like they were going to fold, and we looked at our place and said, yeah, this is not going to last forever. The internet has come along, and equipment all of a sudden was very, very sophisticated. It had been pretty simple to operate. Now it was getting more and more sophisticated, with more and more what you might call modern stuff put in it, so that you didn't need the human piece as much, and it was very expensive. And we went to buy a new paper cutter. The last one we'd got cost us like $800 used. This was $18,000, and that was kind of the decision breaker.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you know, as I flipped through the book here, I noticed you divided into 5 different sections. So maybe let's walk through them one at a time and tell the folks a little bit about, you know, book 1 is From Gutenberg to the Internet. What's that section about?
That's the printing thing, and it talks about me setting type by hand in my hometown newspaper, and then where we finally got to the point where the internet was taking the business into a whole different setup. You know, you just didn't need the same equipment, you didn't need the same. Everything had to change, and it was just too big a leap for a small. Probably underfunded print shop to do, and so that was kind of the beginning of the end.
Yeah, but then in book 2, it's thanks to the prairie town that raised me. Can you talk about that section?
That's the one that really touched my heart, because when I grew up in the small town, and it was so gracious, and as I said, my father had died. My mother had these kids to raise, and the town really surrounded us with love, concern, care, and I credit them for raising some good kids by the town itself. It's a small town, it's 600-700 people, and they took an interest in us. When we boys got old enough to have some kind of employment, boy, they were right there. You know, you could down sack groceries after work, after school. There's a story in there about my brother running it was a horse-drawn milk wagon that took milk and butter to all the places in town. It knew the route, and Gordon never had to do anything. And when he'd come by our house, we'd jump on and we'd ride along. So things like that were just too precious memories not to have in the book.
Wow. And then in book 3, you say it's a salute to your Norwegian ancestry.
Yes, and there's a picture of our Norwegian ancestry there in the book. My grandmother and her mother and her 4 sisters and their daughters, and in the back of the picture, and then all of their kids and husbands and stuff also in the picture. It's really an incredible picture of immigration, and they all moved from Norway to Lake Preston, South Dakota. And so there they are in this beautiful picture. It's very well taken, you know. You could tell it was a really good photographer that set them all up. And and at one point, when my father died, we were living in a smaller town a little ways down the road. And we all moved in with my grandmother in our hometown. And so we kind of crowded her a little bit. But the 2 oldest sisters had moved out of town, so they were already on their way to the big time. Minneapolis was beckoning. So yeah, it was a great place to grow up.
Wow, I bet so. Of course, moving on, book 4, you talk about 6 family stories.
And they are, and that's what I just told you, one of them, and they're stories about the family and how we grew up and where we came from and all those things.
Yeah, and then of course book 5 is leftovers too good to leave out?
Well, they're just little simple stories of things that happened along the way that I think they'll tickle people's funny bone. People will enjoy and laugh and have a good time with them, and probably visit with somebody else about them. And so it just they're very precious to me, and I'm sure other people will get a lot of fun out of them and a lot of trips. There's a story in there about a Roy's, about 15 of us that all took a trip to the Boundary Waters, and it's my notes from that trip, which basically tell a whole lot of stories about us. And oldest was my oldest brother at the time, who was probably 30s, 40s, and the youngest on the trip was probably 4 years old. And so we trekked through the Boundary Waters for a whole week and had a great time. But those kind of stories that very close.
Yeah. You know, so what is it that made growing up during the time you're talking about so special? Because a lot of people listening and watching right now may not understand what you're talking about.
Well, and you're talking about the first story, or the second story, the hometown, the small town.
Just growing up, in that time,
Yeah, and it was a wonderful time. And that town of 500-600 people, they surrounded our family with love. That's the big thing. There was nobody that looked down on us because my mother was a widow and needed help all the time. It wasn't that kind of thing. It was very generous, and farmers would come in and say, Mrs. Barlow, I know you got those kids, and we've got a couple of chickens, and we don't need them, and we just butchered today, and could you help? Could you take them off our hands? Things like that. Now that's the kind of thing that was pretty special to me. I saw that happen over and over again. Of course, there was lakes around that town, and we went fishing every night, and we ate a lot of bullheads. Now, a lot of people might not even know what a bullhead is, but they're not the most desirable, but they sure tasted good.
Well, with that said, can you read a passage for us out of the book?
Yeah. This one. When we lived with my grandma for a while, and I said, I can still see them making blood sausage. They cooked the blood of a cow or sheep in a big black cast iron frying pan, stirring constantly and adding flour, rice, and spices until it was just right. And then putting it into casings, which were the intestines of some animal, cleaned and rinsed and tied off at the end. And when it was full, the other end was closed. Today, I just can't imagine anyone eating such a thing, but I'm sure I tasted it and liked it. And when finished, it came out looking something like summer sausage.
Yeah. What's been the reaction to the book so far?
Well, we had our book launch just recently, and thank you, by the way, for letting us use this space. But it was, we had we had about 40, 50 people here. We almost sold out. No, we've got lots of books. But we are getting down there. And so that was always a goal. We'd sell out and have to order more, and we will soon. But it was great. We just, now I forgot the question.
Well, the reaction to the book so far.
Reaction to the book, yes. And I keep getting people saying, you still got books that you want to sell? And so the reaction has been very good. And I've had people come with comments saying, gee, that was a fun book. It was really fun to read.
Yeah. Do you think life has changed for the better or not? Or is it just different from the old days?
I think it's different, but and I wouldn't say better, because the thing that's different is that we don't know each other as intimately as we did in a small community, and that sense of community is really lost, I think, in great measure. We aren't as sensitive to the needs of others. We don't even know the neighbors next door like people in those small towns knew everybody. And there was a bad piece of that because they knew everybody and knew everything about them. And there are probably some things some people would have liked to have known, to have been known. Yeah, but I think it's we could do better as far as being neighborly.
Okay. Well, you talked some about this, but can you maybe expand on the Norwegian American experience and sort of the hardships your ancestors and probably many ancestors of people endured coming here and setting up?
Yeah, we had the thing that was wonderful about my ancestors coming here was that they settled together in that town, and so they were part of the community, and you know, there was my great grandmother and her 4 daughters and their kids, and they all had husbands, and so that was the town. It was a big part of the town, and so there was a closeness of people, and I think that was really good. They went to church together. They shopped together. They saw each other regularly. People were inviting each other back and forth for coffee and so forth. And that's you don't see as much of that today, I don't think, as we did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that was a hard time and a hard life sometimes when just getting settled over here.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, but maybe that's why they came in groups, because they could help each other out.
Yeah. Who do you miss most from the early days?
I think I miss mostly from that growing up years. Just the closeness of the town. One of the people that we were very close with was the downtown grocer, and Ingbeck. He was just a great guy, and often, you know, would give us a job, whether it was delivering something or working in the store for a little while. And that's the thing that I think we miss a lot here is just that closeness of the whole community, because the community was very, you know, very caring and supportive of everyone in the community. You know, it was a wonderful time. Small towns were a wonderful way to grow up. I don't know if I'd want to live in one today. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what do you hope readers would take away when reading your book?
I hope they'd get a sense of small town life in that era. I hope they'd find out something about the immigration situation, and I hope they'd go away with really a new sense of camaraderie among people, and that we can all do things for each other where we are today, and make that part of our lives. Mm-hmm. Getting to know others and really reaching out to people and bringing back some of that.
Well, you've written this one. Are there more books in the works?
That since these are out there, I've had so many people talk to me about it, and yeah, I was just out at one of the booksellers yesterday and talking to them about, you know, what's selling, what's going, and I think there's another book there or two, who knows.
All right, if people want to copy your book, find out more information, where can they go real quick?
They'd have to call me, 701-237-6453, and or they could write to us, Barlow's, 1214 Elm Street North, Fargo, 58102. And we'd be glad to hear from anybody, and I'd be glad to come out and talk to groups.
Okay.
So.
Well, Howard, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, this has been fun, and I really appreciate it, John.
All right. Stay tuned for more. Quaisian L. is a hard-working musician who calls West Fargo his home. Born and raised, however, in Chicago, he's convinced that moving to North Dakota was part of his life path. His inspiration stems from a great range of musical genres, but his own unique style can be found in each composition.
Living in dark days, gotta focus on my hustle and my grind. Living in dark days, through the spirit and the music I'll be fine. Living in dark days, one thing is pressure in my mind. Living in dark days, living in dark days. Lord knows I've been trying to hold my ground. I got a love so strong, can't deny it. And if I lose my head, I don't think I'll survive it. No, no, run on hard times, nothing like it, no. Losing my family and friends, supposed to stick to the end, but I doubt it. No, no, I've been petrified, running these streets late at night. I got a target on my back, yeah, I'm under attack, and I know it ain't right, but we're living in dark days. Gotta focus on my hustle and my grind, living in dark days. Spirit and the music, I'll be fine, living in dark days. One thing, there's pressure in my mind, living in dark days, living in dark days. God knows I've been lying, and it ain't the little white ones y'all been buying. No, no, I can't hide no more. Gotta stay true to myself. But if I tell you, I can't have you telling no one else. No, no, living in dark days. Gotta focus on my hustle and my grind, living in dark days. Spirit and the music, I'll be fine, living in dark days. One thing, there's pressure in my mind, living in dark days, living in dark days. Dark days, we're living in the dark days, 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 dark days, oh. Gotta focus on my hustle and my focus on my hustle and my grind now. Oh, oh, oh. No, 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 no. Hey, hey, hey. No, 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 Gotta focus on my hustle and my grind, living in dark days. Spirit and the music, I'll be fine, living in dark days. One thing, there's pressure in my mind, living in dark days, living in dark days.
Well, that's all we have on Prairie Pulse for this week. And as always, thanks for watching.
Funding provided by the North Dakota Council on the Arts and by the members of Prairie Public.